We're just waiting for everybody else to show up, I guess.
Not good enough.
Sure, no problem.
Is that you, Kathleen Witcher? Oh, no, it's not.
This is Mayor Sean Klein from Livingston.
Hey, how are you?
All right, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right. Who am I speaking to?
My name is Chris Black.
Hello, Chris.
Hold on. My name is Chris Black, and
I should rename my my thing here.
all right. Kathleen is here.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Deb. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
I'm thankful to the NAACP Irvington for letting us sit down for a few minutes on this weekend before Election Day and have a minute.
It's true.
Yeah. Thank Kathleen if she'll unmute herself. Kathleen, you have to unmute yourself. You're being thanked.
I'm trying to sign into this on my laptop, but it says I have to sign in with a commercial Zoom account.
No, that shouldn't be right.
On my phone, I didn't sign in with a commercial account, but I'd rather do this on my laptop, but I'm not getting on for some reason. I don't know why.
How do you pronounce your name? Canelia? Canela?
Kenil,
Okay.
I'm Kathleen's daughter, actually.
Oh, okay, Canela. All right, you're off mute, but your video's off. Your mom is on mute, but her video is on.
Yeah, I see. I'm gonna reach out to her.
Okay. Well, no. I set the settings so that everybody can get in. First of all, let me introduce myself to you guys. You guys know Kathleen. She's the president of the Irvington NAACP. My name is Chris Black. I am a journalist. I used to cover Irvington, Orange, East Orange, Newark, for War Media, which is War Community Newspapers. The Irvington Herald, the East Orange Record, Hillside and Elizabeth, uh, and a few other papers for those guys, but they're like in 22 or 24 towns across New Jersey. That's how I met Kathleen, covering Irvington. And so and she asked me to get involved with the NAACP to help her do some things. So that's what I'm doing. Um, so that is who I am. My journalism background. Kathleen, you're on mute, man. You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah.
There it is.
All right. We're glad that you're here. We only expect one more candidate. We open up for our candidates to just introduce yourselves now. And our rule in AACP and other 501c3s, we do not endorse candidates, but we feel that we want more people to be knowledgeable about who the candidates are, what their experiences have been, what they can share with us about coming into the commissioner seat at large for Essex County now, because we noticed that there's only one person, Wayne Richardson, who decided that he would be reelected. So we welcome you, and we're going to ask first, for Deborah to come on and introduce yourself. And then Sean, come on. We also expect to have Marquise Lewis, but he's not here yet, so we'll just continue on. And if he arrives, fine. We also welcome questions and answers. All right, Deborah, come on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Engel. I want to thank you so much for organizing this. I really believe in competitive elections because I think it's a way that the community can get engaged with government, and when the candidates can get engaged with the community, and when we can actually talk about issues and learn what's happening on the ground so that we can make policy and legislation that's better for everyone. So I'm so grateful that you're putting together this forum and happy that Sean is here, and hopefully Marquise will join, and at least you'll be able to hear from some of us because I think, like you, Kathleen, it's so important for voters to have information and know about the candidates running. We haven't had that many competitive elections for Essex County Commissioner, and so I'm so happy that we have one this year. So just a little bit about me. I live in Maplewood. I live actually on the Maplewood-Irvington border, so I'm often driving through the Springfield Avenue business district of Irvington. I am a single mom of three. I was a small business owner. I owned a business in South Orange, which was a co-working space, a shared office space with a licensed child care center. And then I started a co-retail store on Springfield Avenue in Maplewood, which was putting together complementary businesses under one roof to help with the financial cost of owning a brick and mortar. It was an incubator to test ideas, and also the mental load of owning a business. And then the pandemic came and my life changed. I found myself in a small business advocacy role because I started a Facebook group to bring us small businesses and independent contractors together to figure out how we were going to weather this storm. And I found myself learning about all the financial packages that were coming from the federal and state governments, understanding the legalese or trying to understand the legalese of what it all meant, and then explaining it in plain terms to the business community so we can figure out how we can take advantage of it. And I found myself on panels and all these things, and then I decided I liked it. So I did a program through She Should Run, which had a program at the time for women who were thinking about running for office. It was like, I think, a 7-week program. And then I ran for office. I ran for Maplewood Township Committee. I won the primary, competitive primary with 85% of the vote. And then I served for 3 years. One of those years, I was deputy mayor. I finished this past December and decided to run for this county position because I wanted to finish the work I started on the local level and bring it to a countywide scale. I think that we're so isolated, our communities right now and our municipalities right now, and we're facing like really big challenges around affordability, around infrastructure, around things like flooding. And I think right now we're dealing with it too much alone, and we need to be working better together. So I don't know if you want me to just go into, you listed some topics, so I can kind of like touch on those topics or just continue my spiel or.
We're going to hear from Sean first, and then we'll come back.
Okay, so I'll just finish my little spiel is so like, I really want to focus on how we can make Essex County more affordable, things like housing and healthcare and gas and electric bills. Everything's really high, and I think we can be doing more. I also think 15% of our taxes go to our county budget, and I think we need a little bit more transparency and accountability so we know where that money goes. Maplewood and South Orange has a lot of shared services, so that's something I'd be interested in exploring more countywide. And then Complete Streets is one of my passion projects. Right now, we think about roads as just for cars, and I think we need to start thinking about other ways to travel to get cars off the streets and make it safer and increase public transportation access, bike lanes, things like that. So that's a little bit about me, and I can't wait to talk more with all of you. And I'll throw it to Sean.
Well, that's a load. So now we're going to let Sean introduce himself, and he is running on the ticket with Wayne Richardson, Abdur Yassin, and one more candidate. I guess they were not available, so we thank Sean very much for considering coming on tonight. We know you're busy on the campaign trail, so we just take a little bit of your time and inform others about who you are. So welcome, Sean. Tell us about yourself.
You're muted, Sean.
Just hit
Okay.
the mic.
I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we
All
got
right, good. Hi. First of all, it's great to be on with you folks. And thanks for, again, as Deb said, for giving us an opportunity to just introduce ourselves. Um, listen, I think that if you're going to be part of the Democratic Party and you're going to be the party of good government, then you actually have to identify and solve people's problems. Um, Otherwise, we might as well just be the party of small government like the Republicans, right? We have to believe in our hearts that government can actually address problems that people have. And there are people who are having a lot of problems right now. I've been on the council for 12 years in Livingston. I've been mayor 3 times. In Livingston, we have given good government to people. All right. We have, I talk about some of the accomplishments. There's a lot of them over 12 years. But if I just pick a couple out, 3 or 4 years ago during the height of COVID, there was the front page of our newspaper in town every week was had stories of car break-ins and car thefts and house break-ins, and people were not feeling safe. And we decided we had to address this. We got more police out from behind desks onto the streets. We got better technology for our police. And we drove crime down 75 to 80% in major categories. And we just had a survey that came out on town a few weeks back, which asked people what do they like best about Livingston. And number 2 on that survey was how safe people felt. And that really was a big difference from just a few years ago. So I feel like government stepped up and was able to address the problem. We have increased our bond rating to AA1, which is the second highest bond rating. I'm really proud of that. It shows that our residents that we are fiscally responsible, that we're taking good care of their money. It also does something else that's important, which it makes it cheaper to borrow money in the future. So we are ensuring the future of the township, and making sure that everything Livingston stays fiscally responsible. Livingston's a really diverse and welcoming place. As mayor, I have gone to iftar dinners and Black History Month and Hindu festivals and Chinese New Year, Jewish holidays, the big Christian holidays. We go to everything. And we go to all these things because we want people to understand that we see them, that we care about them, that every part of Livingston is a part of the bigger whole, and that we want to hear what they have to say and we value their contributions to our community. And I think that's part of what makes Livingston such a special place. We've also done some really innovative things around the environment, which, sometimes I'm talking to people and they have a real passion around the environment, and I love talking about it, but it gets into the weeds really fast. So I don't really tend to talk about it unless people have specific questions, but I really care deeply about the environment, and it's something that I'm happy to discuss further. I think just from a personal point of view, the background on me is I'm an eye surgeon. I did my training in Newark, University Hospital. I have offices in an office in Elizabeth, and we take people from all over Essex County. We got lots of Irvington patients that come to us, as well as from all over the place, from Newark and East Orange, and from Maplewood and South Orange and Livingston, all over the place. And they come to us because we really care for people. We give people the care that they want. What I say about being a doctor, though, is that when you're a doctor, you can help one person at a time. When I make a good decision in Livingston, I'm helping 30,000 people at a time. But if I can do a good job at the county level, I'm helping 900,000 people at a time. And that's sort of what's motivating me to try to seek this higher role at this point. I think I've had a lot of really important experience in local government, and I want to bring that forward to some benefit to the county level. I have 2 sons. I got a junior and freshman in public school here in Livingston, and that keeps us busy too. And that's just sort of what I would say as an intro. I mean, obviously there's a million things to talk about. I think I'll just say this: that at the county level, the things that I'm really worried about dealing with are the affordability crisis, communication, and I think coordinating. I think it's really important for the county to play a role in how the towns are getting their work done, so that we can coordinate among the towns, and also from the county to the towns. And I'll just use an example for that. I really want to see, one of the things that's killing all of the school districts right now, and by the way, all the municipal governments, are the increase in health insurance costs. And I don't, as far as I can tell, the county has not played a large role in helping townships to coordinate those things. If you can pool all of those employees from all the municipalities and the county, you're going to have a much bigger applicant pool, and you may do better with bulk discounts there's a lot of other issues with health insurance, like the lack of transparency and the lack of competition, which are all part of and parcel of the same problem. But I think the county, just for example, in that one role, and there's lots of others I could talk about, should be stepping in and helping municipalities spend their dollars as wisely as possible.
Very, very smart. I think we have Diane on, and she's going to in the next couple of minutes ask a couple of questions, especially regarding the services at Rutgers University Hospital is now. Okay.
I'm
And
still on staff there.
it's certainly, we know some of the issues, and there are some members of our branch and other organizations that are quite immersed in healthcare, and we know that there is certainly an expansion of population in Essex County. And so I see reports that Newark has at least 5,000 more residents in the past year coming in. So, everyone doesn't use the same hospital facilities. But as you said, and as Deb had said, there are many things that we are plagued with now that possibly were overlooked, and the county did not get involved. Um, I just want to say to you that I am very pleased to hear your empathy, and that we were gone on to a couple of more questions that have been submitted to us by other concerned citizens. But I will segue over to my colleague, Chris, because Chris, as he said, is a journalist, and that's almost parallel to a preacher. So he'll be over there with with some more he wants to say, and I'll let him have it right now. Go right ahead.
Oh, that is hilarious. But that's not bad, right? Amen, right? And I don't have the Holy Ghost, but I got a ghost on my shirt. Well, listen, as Kathleen said, she's got prepared questions, and I like to be fair when we do forums so that everybody has had a chance to look at the questions and everybody can answer the questions. So I really want to get to her prepared questions. But myself personally, I only there were two things that came up when I heard both of you speak, and you mentioned about and I think Kathleen referenced this too when she introduced you guys, that this year's election is a little different. It might be a little more competitive. I'll put it that way, because in the past it was line A all the way. You got line A, you're good to go. But I got apparently that is no longer the case. So I would like to ask each of you to say, why do you think this year is different? And then my only real big question for the county references to what you were saying about the population growth, because it seems to me I'm going to blame it all on New Yorkers coming over here, right? Everybody from New York wants to come to Jersey. They talk trash for decades about Jersey. And now everybody wants to come to Jersey and live here, right? And in Jersey City and in Newark and in the urban centers, but also Montclair and elsewhere. They're just coming in there flooding, and it's pushing property values. Rents are increasing. Development is all over the place. Jersey City's got a deficit, but they're still putting up buildings everywhere. And so those are my two questions. My three questions. One, why is this year different? You think in terms of competition for the seats? And I know Wayne Richardson because I was there when he first ran, right? Covering Irvington. Why is this year different? What do you think about the population growth and influx? And that's all. That's all. So
Are we asking Deb first and then Sean?
Whichever you want to go, but first is last, last is first. So we'll start with Sean.
Yeah.
Because you are actually
All right.
The mayor. What do you think about why is this year different?
So I think there's a number of factors that have made this different. A lot of it is I'll say two principles, and then there's a process difference also. But there's an Andy Kim effect, right? So Andy Kim got the line thrown out at this, from the courts, and that has led to, and then so that's part of it. So the entry level into getting into a race, and being able to compete without having just a line. We in Essex we had a convention. I was very proud to, out of 11 people, I came in second at that convention. I had almost 700 people that had voted to support me. And I was out of about 1,000. So very happy with that. And here's the thing about it is that there wasn't a line, so there had to be, if the party was going to provide support to anyone, there was an open process and people could come in and compete. So that's part of it, is that the line is gone because of Andy Kim. And so it's like an explosion of democracy. And then the second thing is that, I think so many people are upset about Donald Trump that they feel like they need to raise their hand and stand up and do something, right? People are motivated. They're angry and upset, and they think about, what they want this country to be like and how they want this country to act and to perform and who they want their country to be. And they see the distortion that Donald Trump is bringing to the character of our nation, and they want to stand up and they want to do something about it. I was speaking this morning in Newark, and I said to them, I said to, I was in the North Ward, and I was saying to everybody, serving at the national level, probably doesn't feel that great, right? But it still feels good locally. Like, you can still make real differences in people's lives. Look, you can still feel as a public servant that you're doing something valuable, something that's noble, something that makes a difference for the people that you're trying to care for. So those are the things. I think it's the Trump effect. I think it's the Andy Kim effect. People are stepping up to do this stuff. That's the first question. Do you want me to go to the second one, or we want Deb to take a crack?
Get Deb. You had that was 3 minutes exactly. You are a pro. That's pretty good.
I didn't even know I had 3 minute time limit, so that's pretty impressive for me.
I said it was on the money. All right, go ahead, Deb.
I agree with Sean that the Andy Kim getting rid of the line has made it easier to run for office. Some of the requirements changed. I mean, you see in Newark, there were 19 people that raised their hands for their council because they changed the amount of signatures, the petition and whatnot. I disagree with Sean a little bit about the open process for the convention. I do feel like there is like a clique a little bit within the party, and where they're not really making it easy for newcomers to come in. The process for the convention and the endorsement process was not readily available to the public. I only happened upon it because people knew I was thinking about running, and then they're like, oh, the deadline to submit for endorsement is today. So I do think that the Democratic Party needs to do a better job of getting new voices, about opening their arms, about opening the doors, and making the process to run for government a little bit easier for people that aren't already party insiders. I think we've seen in elections with Andy Kim and Ana Lilia Mejia that there is there's new voters, there's new engagement, there's new people who are excited, who maybe before have felt a little bit jaded about politics. And so I do think that we need to be better at recruiting and bringing up newcomers. And then and I agree also that the Trump effect, like I do think that people want to get involved, people want to run for office. I don't think we learned much about like civic education when I was growing up. And I do think that it's good to get our youth involved. It's good to be talking about the issues, and people want to be involved now. They want to use their voice. So I think that having the open elections is a good thing. That was the question, right? About why now? So same as Sean, basically Andy Kim got rid of the line and made politics fairer. But we do need more fairness. I'm running with the Essex Reform Democrats, which is a group of people across Essex County who are trying to ask for more open elections, more transparency, ranked choice voting at the convention, more time, a chance for candidates to actually speak, and some other asks, voting more than just like 9 to 1 on a Saturday, but allowing 24-hour voting so district leaders can vote, so that we can make it more fairer. Morris County has a little bit more fairer conventions right now than Essex County, but we're off to a good start, I think, just by allowing, more people. And we also need to look at, by the way, campaign finance when it comes to that, because, we still have the slate effect. We still have people who are bracketed together on the ballot, who when they get their ballot positions are picked out together versus individuals. And when you get more competitive elections, there's more money that are coming into elections. And I think we need to look at finance reform so that it's equal, so that we can have voices from all different parts of the community represented, because you need different perspectives, you need different point of views, you need different types of people to be sitting in those chairs to make sure that the policy is good for everybody.
All right, you did 3 minutes on the dot too. You a vet just like Sean. That's great. And then we'll keep going, Deb. And that just the second question is I don't want to say a population explosion, but the growth in population. Because I'm seeing it. I don't know if the polls reflect it, but I'm definitely seeing the growth in population. What do you attribute that to? And then how would that affect the county and providing services when the municipalities are getting, these influxes?
Right. Well, I want to say New Jersey's amazing, and that's why everybody wants to move here. I think COVID had a big part of it as well. I think people were fleeing the city and wanting to come to New Jersey. You didn't have to necessarily be in your office in the city as much anymore. You can work from home. Where conditions changed, and so more people moved to New Jersey. I 100% agree that it's affecting everyday life in New Jersey. We talked about healthcare. And by the way, I agree with Sean. I talk about this all the time that the county should be looking at what kind of health consortium we can do so that people can get off the state plan because it's breaking everyone's budgets. But it's also housing. And I think when we're talking about development, you mentioned development. When we think about affordable housing, we're thinking about these big projects, big business, transit-oriented developments, and with a small amount of affordable units in it. And the way that people get assigned their affordable unit, it's not that I live in Irvington or I live in Newark or I live in Maplewood and I'm applying for an affordable unit in my municipality. It's just a draw. And if you get picked, you might get picked in Milburn or West Caldwell. You're not necessarily getting picked to be in your community. And when we're talking about affordable housing, I don't think everybody wants to live in an apartment. I think there's families that also want affordable one family or multifamily homes. So we have to think about the type of affordable housing stock that we can do. In Maplewood, it wasn't me, it was our mayor, but in our Maplewood, he negotiated some deals. He worked with a nonprofit, Hands, where they were able to rehab some single family homes and do something with the taxes and the deeds to make them affordable for the term. And then once that family moves out, it has to stay affordable. And so we should be looking at other opportunities for affordable housing stock. And then we also need to look at workforce housing. A lot of people can't afford to live where they work. And when we're talking about workforce housing, we need to think about where we're going to put it and then how we're going to connect it to existing transportation or create new transportation so people can actually move around from those housings. And then infrastructure, of course. I think sometimes when we're building buildings, we don't necessarily think about flood. I mean, you have to in the zoning and the planning think a little bit about the flooding, but you don't really think about the impact on traffic, on the electrical grid, on flooding, on the actual services that municipalities are providing. And I think a lot of people moving here also don't have health insurance. I don't have health insurance right now because it got too expensive when the subsidies went away, and I don't have a corporate health plan. And I think there's a lot of people that don't have that. And the county does have programs and sources that they can be doing a better job bringing to the people or even letting the people know about it so they can still be getting their flu vaccines, they can still be getting wellness checkups, and they can be, helping out while we figure out how to fix healthcare, which is a longer thing that's not going to happen overnight. So that's just my ramble. That might have been 3 minutes, might have been shorter.
I counted
that
it was
was
just over. I don't know how you.
No. She actually has a few seconds left. But listen, she led right into you, Sean, bringing up the healthcare since you're a doctor. So you can pick up in terms of.
I think Deb covered a lot of good stuff there. Let me just add to what she said as opposed to repeat everything she said. I think, listen, New Jersey has the distinction of leading the nation in young people not being able to afford to live here and leaving. So we have the best education, one of the best, always one of the top ranked state education systems. So here we have all these really, really smart, talented kids that we're producing, and then they can't live in New Jersey. They leave and go somewhere else, right? So it's a huge problem. So, I think, so I'm almost taking the opposite tack in your question, Chris, because I'm actually worried about that we're not keeping enough of the population here. We had some trends because of COVID, and we had these trends because of work from home and stuff, where people all of a sudden figured out that they didn't have to come to work every day, so it was easier to live far away and not have to cross the river. So those were reasons why the population started to jump up. But there's a large amount, and it's already started to happen, which is sort of part of why there is a population expansion, is of affordable housing that's being built, to try to address this question. And there's a lot of communities, and I would argue as mayor of Livingston that I'm not really thrilled with how this works. There's no local control in terms of the development. That there's so much control given to the developers as opposed to the municipalities and the people that live there in terms of how housing is being added to the towns. Like we have had developments that are being put in parts of our town which are in the middle of nowhere, which make it so that anytime someone needs anything, they're going to have to get in their car. They can't walk to anywhere that's useful. They can't go to a store. They can't they can't do anything. It's just going to, and these are areas that already have bad traffic for that reason. And so we're going to be doubling up on those problems. So I have problems. So the goal in the state of providing more affordable housing is absolutely a mandatory goal. I would just say that there have to be better ways of getting to fulfill that goal. And so that's sort of, I branched off a little bit from your point, but I think I'm gonna.
You're on topic. Keep going.
All right, I'm gonna come back and just to where Deb's first point, just say because New Jersey's so great and everyone wants to be here. So that's where I'm gonna end on her first point.
And just to add on what Sean said, because I think Sean will agree, the way that the state came out with their rules for this new round of affordable housing, they kind of made these mandatory deadlines without having a process in place. And they kind of left the municipalities in a hard spot. And I think all the municipalities have been dealing with that.
Absolutely.
And listen, Kathleen, I know you trying to, you want to keep this tight. You want to go for an hour. I don't mind going long. Kathleen will tell you, I like discussion. I like topics, but it's a Saturday. It's the summertime.
I do. I actually have I had explained to Kathleen that I have a little bit of a time crunch this evening. Actually.
Yeah. All right.
If we can ask, I'm happy to discuss like one more topic, but I do have to jump off. I have another commitment.
Well, that way, once again, you lead off with the prepared questions. Kathleen, what prepared questions do you have?
Well, we want to know a lot about how our candidates, and we hear a lot about shaking up the county commission because basically we have seen a lot with the vocational schools. Donald Payne is certainly state of the art compared to West Caldwell and Nortec. Donald Payne is certainly making world renowned progress in education for those children who are coming through and may not be going on to college. But we want to know pretty much, besides the parks and the developments in the parks, besides those kinds of projects, how are we going to be dealing with the vacancies in the courts? Because the county courts need judges, and we want to know what's going to be done to fill those courts, that people will get their due process on time, will move through the system on time, and also addressing the issues that we have now with our county jails. We have a toxic site where our youth are housed for the county, and that needs a lot of work. It is in an area where there's an incinerator and a proposed sewer by Passaic Valley, and we need that addressed because the environmental hazards that come from Northern State Prison are also emanated over at the youth facility, the county jail. So on those two levels, expansion of the programs in education for the youth in Essex County, and what are we doing with environmental, or what are your thoughts, the environmental hazards that have come in at our East Ward in North, particularly because we realized there was an Agent Orange factory. A long time ago, it was dismantled. There's nothing on that site, but it's right in the area of that toxic incinerator that spews corrosives and damages the air quality. So what are we thinking about doing in those cases as county commissioners?
I'll go first if that's okay. Kathleen, you covered a very wide range of topics in that question.
Yes,
So let me
yes,
try to pick out a few thoughts that I had from listening to you. First of all, I want to say this is what's so good about coming on to things like this and hearing from people and talking to people. Like that's part of the job, right? And when you're in government, you have to have your ears open before you open your mouth. And I didn't know there was a problem with the judges. So thank you for educating me on that. And I'm going to learn more about that. I'm going to make an effort to learn more about that. So thank you for that. Let me say this just in general about the environment. If you remember, I said to you that that's a particular passion of mine. I really care about. I really care about environmental justice and all of these. If you're going to clean up the environment, the first place to clean up are the dirtiest places, and unfortunately, that's where poor people tend to live. And so those are the first places to start, right? So when you're talking about jails and urban centers that are where the environment has been deeply impacted by so many people who just, are basically don't care about it, and just kind of like industries just using it as a waste spot. That's the first place to clean up, right? That's where you make the biggest difference with by addressing environmental issues. So I have heard some of the discussion around the youth center that you discussed, and obviously that's a really important issue and needs to be looked into. Um, I think that what I would say, and just in general, is one of the things that I'm really interested in doing is getting a solar energy plan that's countywide. I think that will do a number of things. First of all, the more clean energy we can produce, the less, and the more it means the more battery power, which means less exhaust from trucks and cars. Which, if you look at urban centers, the asthma rates there are right through the roof. So we need to start using clean vehicles and clean electricity, and having solar panels everywhere we can put them is a really important part of that. In addition to the idea that the more solar we put up, the more capacity there is in energy production, and that gets to the affordability crisis, right? So if we're producing a lot more energy, we can start to pull down on the cost of energy, and that happens in two ways. One is if you have solar panels on your balcony, right, that you're not going to have to pay for PSE&G to for that portion of the electricity because you're getting it from the sun. But besides that, as you put more solar capacity on, the PSE&G will have to decrease its rates, right? Because there's going to be more capacity, and they'll have to charge less per unit energy. Like that's just the laws of supply and demand. So there's a lot of benefit that can come from health benefit to an affordability benefit to an environmental benefit by doing a big solar program. So I'm really excited about trying to figure out how that can get done. Um, I think as far as the schools go, it's funny when you go to, like, if you ever see Joe D give his state of the county address. The first time I went in there, I'm like, okay, we're going to hear a lot about the parks and a lot about roads, right? But that's actually a very small part of what the county does, and you guys understand that. And one of the important things the county does is the school system. So there's 3 high schools and a university, and I'm a huge proponent of education. I became a physician because I wanted to stay in school longer. I love learning, and that's actually part of why I got into government, because I wanted to understand these issues and learn and turn around, because I'm just generally intellectually interested in this stuff. So I can't wait to get my arms around the school system and try to understand better how it's structured. What improvements are possible. There's nothing that you can do to lift up a community more than educating the community, and so I'm really going to be focused on that. And then I'm going to stop because I talked about 12 things. I'll let Deb jump in.
Kathleen asked about 12 things. Good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
I'll go and I'll start with the schools. So this is one area that I do think that Essex County has can make a lot of improvements. I hear a lot from, and I see it with my nieces and nephews. Well, people who graduate college aren't necessarily coming out with a job anymore. They can't afford to live here, as Sean says, and the job market is changing right now with AI. And there's a lot of people where college is not necessarily the right path for them anyway. I mean, I would have benefited not to have gone straight to college personally from high school. And I really want to see us create better VOTEC programs and promote those programs to all of our schools across the region. It feels like there haven't been the best, at least in my area, there haven't been the best partnerships, and there hasn't been the best communication or information about some of those schools. And I've learned a lot actually from Marquise, who I wish was here answering this question, because he was on the school board in Newark, and I've learned a lot about how it's only certain kids who are actually even going to these VOTECs, and sometimes they're already a little bit privileged. And so I think that we need to be looking at what are these new careers that we need to be training our workforce in, whether you're a high schooler, whether you're in college, whether you're a career transitioner, whether you're in the prison system or in the youth prison system. What kinds of workforce trainings can we be looking at? Like I would love for my kids to be an electrician, because I don't think the electricians are going to go away. But we don't know what's happening in the world right now with AI. There's so many people being laid off. There's so many people who don't have jobs, and there's so many people that can't get jobs. So I'm definitely looking and interested. I own the daycare center, so I know from early education. I know how important early education is, but but I think we need to continue that education all the way through the path and figure out ways that we can be preparing people to be able to have, a successful life. I mean, of course, electrician, you can also be a small business owner, which is another passion of mine. So even just teaching people the skills of they have a skill, and then how do you make that into a business where you can have a little bit of flexibility, where you can have your own livelihood based on your own business, is something that I think we can work towards. The environmental cleanup area. I mean, environmental cleanup is so expensive. And I think that is a big challenge that everybody has right now whenever there's a contaminated area. And so I don't think it's an easy fix, but I do agree with what Sean said about we have to look at these areas that are bad, and then we have to figure out ways that we can fund cleanup, and then who's going to do the cleanup. So we have to definitely, I sometimes see the county as like an intermediary from being able to get information from the state and get information from the federal government and then pass it along to all of our agencies and our municipalities so they know where some of the funding exists so that they can tackle some of these problems. Because sometimes that's the biggest issue. Like, oh my God, this is going to cost so much money and we don't know how to pay for it. So I think the funding issue is something that we can tackle. And I did know a little bit about the vacancies in courts, and we do need to be appointing judges because, I mean, people are just sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting for their court date to happen or for their things to clear up, and that shouldn't be right. I mean, people need to go on with their lives. They shouldn't be just sitting there in eternal wait. We see that even with, our immigrant community, even just being able to get through their citizenship process. Everything is taking such a long time, so we do need to look at that and make sure that it's a priority that we're appointing people. I think those were the three.
Yes, sir. Very well. All right.
And listen, Sean, since you got it, I'm sorry, Sean, since you got to go.
I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta jump off.
Tell people where you're located on the ballot. Just give yourself a plug before you go.
Yeah, so I'm 5E on the ballot. I'm running the people that I'm running with, the four of us go from 3E down to 6E on the ballot. And I'm personally 5E.
Okay.
So listen, thank you for listening. It's been really great to talk and address these issues. And I look forward to meeting you in person at some point. I'm sure we'll run across you guys. I mean, one of the things I want to say is that this is an at-large position, and I trained in Newark. I've spent a lot of time in Newark, and I've spent time in Irvington now, and I'm meeting people all over the place. And when you're at large, it should be understood that you're making a commitment to be in all these communities and listening to all these voices. And I'm going to have open ears, and I'm going to be listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I mean, I'll stay with you all if you want to chat more because I also am curious. I like your questions because it gives like a sense of what, is happening in your community and what's like important. Because like we can learn, but our circles get small and the access that we have. So we're able to do forums like this. I get to hear from a different community because I didn't know any of you before today. So thank you.
Is Diane Colson out there in the audience? Because she can ask her own question, or I'll ask maybe some of what she intended to ask us. Diane, are you on?
Well, hold on. Marquise just joined. I'm gonna let him in.
Oh, bring Marquise in.
There he is.
All right. Marquise, we're happy to have you. Of course, I've known you for a long, long time. I must say that I'll have to be impartial because that would be my role. But I was Marquise's stepfather's teacher in high school. And
let me interrupt you. That's not called impartial. That's called full disclosure, Kathleen. But it's all good. Go ahead.
So I watched Marquise grow, and certainly I saw him many times as the member of the Newark School Board, as has been mentioned by Deb. And then he became the president of the Newark School Board. Real challenge to go through because at that time, state takeover was looming in Newark. And I must say that we learned so much. It's a legacy thing, but we learned so much about being a part of communities that have the public's view and the role to play that makes a difference in education, in well-being, in all phases of the quality of life. So when we are able to give of our time, we cannot be misjudged. Certainly, I've heard a lot, and it really is inspiring from both Sean and Deb. And I'm wondering where the other candidates are because everyone was invited. I wanted them to share just how they will make things better, comfortable, and doable for the thousands of constituents you have. Some people won't come out to vote because they don't know the candidates. But while Marquise is coming on, I want to say that we still have early voting going on through Sunday, tomorrow, 8 p.m. at designated spots. You can go out to vote in person. And if you have a mail-in ballot, you want to put that in the drop box that's designated clearly to see, or you want to put it in the USPS mailbox. And that is due at the clerk's office by 8 p.m. on primary day, which is Tuesday, June the 2nd. Now, I want to say that all citizens who are 18 and over should be registered to vote. So I'm going to hold up quickly this QR that you can see because I want everybody to be registered in coming elections. I think you can see this. Or if you do the screen share, we'll be able to see that information. And the New Jersey NAACP has a MOVE program, Move New Jersey, which encourages everybody to use the 4 steps to register to vote. Now, it's pretty simple. That vote.org is available to everybody. And at vote.org, you can check your voting status. You can register to vote. There it is, the QR code. If you bring it down a little bit, everybody can get the QR. And in 4 steps, you can register to vote. There we are. Mr. Jonathan McKinney, who was a former Get Out the Vote specialist for National NAACP, has combined several pages of instruction and also how to mobilize voters that they would like to come out on every election day. Now, we know that there will be the primary on Tuesday, and on June the 9th, the following Tuesday, in North, the South Ward will have a runoff between Asia Norton and Councilman Patrick Council, because as the state law has it, you have to have a majority of 50% of the votes cast on that election day plus 1 vote. And when the May 12th election was held, Patrick Council had only 46% of the vote, and Asia had 23% of the vote. So we want everybody to remember that if you're a resident and a registered voter in the South Ward of Newark, you have another election coming up just 1 week after the primary on June the 9th. Make sure to go out to vote in the South Ward runoff. The big election will be coming up in November, and that is the general election. And at that time, we'll be looking at who is going to go into the Congress. The House of Representatives and the senators of the country are in a particular dilemma at this time, I would say, because all around the country, we're looking at redistricting. We're looking sometimes at states that want to gerrymander, and the gerrymandering will go so that a particular party will be given more or less a majority voting status for their district drawn by the new congressional lines in Tennessee, Alabama, in Virginia, and other states. Right now, they're battling because it looks like they want to stop Black and brown people from voting. And so when you look at the background that I have today for my Zoom, it says out of bounds. And I'm going to hurry up because I want Marquise to come on, but it says out of bounds because we're looking to address the kinds of voter suppression that our parents fought so hard for. Now, John Lewis is familiar to most of you. John Lewis was a teenager when he started working with NAACP. He was on the Edmund Pettus Bridge over in Selma, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. The people were fighting because they wanted them to pay poll tax. They wanted them to pass a test in order to be eligible to vote. They didn't ask everybody to do that, but they asked the Black residents who came out. Medgar Evers is somebody the NAACP wants to celebrate this year because Medgar Evers was fighting so hard for everyone to have the right to vote. And one night, although he is very known for caution, he went home, parked his car in front of the house, but forgot a package from his car. And when he went back outside after a long day in the night in the dark in Mississippi, he was shot and killed. Medgar Evers is one of the people that gave up his life for other people to vote. Some of you know Fannie Lou Hamer. I remember that. I saw her in 1968. I was working in Chicago, Illinois, when they had the Democratic Convention. And there she said, I'm tired of being sick and tired. And she was beaten and into bad health, trying to register people to vote. Fannie Lou Hamer later died almost penniless, but she knew the value of registering to vote. So the NAACP is, and I just completed an all-day workshop on how to mobilize, how to get people out to the polls to vote. And so part of what we're doing today is making familiar the candidates who have come out, the candidates who have shown their work, and that we can support. We do not endorse the candidates. We do not tell you who to vote for, but we do say support those who support you. So at this point, I want to stop and I want to say I welcome Marquise to come on, tell us a little bit about himself and those things he would like to do if elected to another position, passing through the school board and going on to the county commission board, formerly freeholder.
He's no longer on. I don't know if he had a technical difficulty or an issue, but he was on. He switched his background. He was getting set, but he got switched. But he's not bound. He'll probably be back. But listen, to me, I call it in this age of this post-pandemic age, but the virtual age that we're in, I call it technical difficulties when things like that happen, because technical difficulties come with all this virtual stuff that we can do, which I think is great because the virtual stuff allows us to have this. I don't want to. It's not impromptu because we've been talking about it for a while. This forum and have everybody here, have Sean be able to click in, have Marquise drop in, to have the Witcher ladies, show up and be involved. And that's why I like this. I like it in education. I like it across the board and the spectrum. And Deb, it's a pleasure meeting you and meeting Sean. Because you, like you said, you're in Maplewood. You're really close by to Irvington. So you you have a stake in what's going on really in Essex County and what's going on. But I mean, you want to stay and have a discussion. I mean, right now, I guess we're going over almost everything. Do you have any more questions? Because I mean, even though Sean is gone, if you still got one or two prepared questions, Kathleen, we can let her answer it and go a little bit more in depth. If you still out, because you said you had like two or three. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Add one more thing to what Kathleen was saying about voting. If you're going to turn 18 by election day, you can now register to vote. So you don't need to be 18 to register anymore. You just need to turn 18 by election day.
Exactly. Well, Deb, let me ask you. We have had 2 elections now for school board in Newark, and it seems like the youth aren't quite with us on coming out to vote. But I do recognize that there was a vote taken by the environmental group that were deciding on what should be done in certain sites in the Newark area. So what do you think? How can we get our youth involved?
I think we need to start bringing these issues to our youth where they are and making them understand that they have a voice. In Maplewood, we had a youth advisory committee that was kind of like defunct a little bit. And when I served, I brought it back because I really wanted to hear the voices of our youth. Even though they couldn't vote in our elections, I thought that a policy and programs that we're running really affect our children and that they should be a part of it. And so out of that, they worked on a pitch. They had this idea of creating some kind of like public transportation or shuttle or jitney service for kids to be able to use after school to bring them to work, to bring them between the two towns, so that they didn't have to rely on parents anymore. And that's something that's now being talked about. Well, it's true, right? Because I mean, working parents can't always pick up their kids. These kids want to work when they can get a job, and it's hard to move around. So that's now being talked about between both Maplewood and South Orange. There's a joint committee talking about could we do this like Soma shuttle bus thing.
I'm smiling because it sounds like Uber specifically for the kids. Like like they'll have their own Uber. I'm not mad about that because you're right. It would help facilitate a lot of things if you had parents who had access, to get the kids access to safe travel with the kids, so that they would know that there was somebody who's capable and trusted. That would be cool. But like I said, that sounds like the kids sneaking some Uber in there. That's why I thought it was smart. I thought it was funny. That's pretty cool. That's actually good.
There actually was a business that started in Maplewood called Kid Kaboo that was trying to do that. It was trying to be like an Uber for kids, like a driving nanny. So you could actually have the same driver each time drive them. But New Jersey has some of the highest regulated youth transportation laws. And so she get licensed. She's licensed in like 13 or 14 other states, but she wasn't actually able to get licensed here. But Uber Teen now exists, which is like life-changing a little bit. But this was more of like a shuttle bus. So that would be like a loop that you can just, buy a ticket and get on to like move around the two towns, which is something I think we could be looking at regionally. And the other thing we did was we started recruiting our youth, our high school students to have positions on our boards and committees. Because it started because we had a girl, she was interested in the Environmental Advisory Committee, and she was very active there and even started a subcommittee for a tree commission, shade tree commission. And so from that, we decided, so we've been trying to populate and having a youth voice on each of our committees. And then they then bring it back to the school and they start engaging the kids in the issues via surveys or information or just having a better connection between government and youth in our schools. So I think what we have to engage our kids somehow. We have to teach them that they have a voice in civics. And so I think that if we start involving them in policy decisions or programs or making them feel like they have a seat at the table and have better communication with them, then it might activate them to start actually being like, oh, I actually do want to vote. Also like candidate forums. I mean, I don't know if Newark has done specific candidate forums with or town halls and Q&As with the students, or if they're or not, but that would be another way so that they can actually hear from the candidates and get excited by one or two or three of them and want to be able to work on their campaigns, learn about organizing, learn about doing voter registration drives in their high schools, learning about getting out the vote. We just need to create programs that get people like activated.
I agree with you. I think personally, I think the other thing is that you mentioned it before. You guys, when I say you, I would say yourself, Kathleen and others, you frame it as the kids having a voice. But that to me, it's the opposite. The kids don't realize that most of what you guys as parents do and educators do is around the kids. The kids, they know it, but then they don't think about it, how central they are to everything that goes on. and you're trying to get them to realize that. My first thought was you get a couple of those influencers, whoever's an influencer in North, among the kids, because there's got to be a couple of them. You get a couple of those kids to put out a thing, and I get you're guaranteed to get all of it. It's like a marketing thing. You get all of those North teams involved. If the right person tells them, go ahead out here and come on out here and do this, they'll do it. I mean, because one, they're bored, they need something to do, and they want to get together. And like I said, it would be cool to them, not just something like, when we talk about it, it's like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 right?
Yeah, no, that's the point. Like in here, with like SZA's like our big like star here, so you can give, I don't know if she's big in Newark, but SZA can just tell everybody to go vote,
Yes, I believe it will probably have because they can have flash mobs. They can have these pop-up events among themselves where they thousands, hundreds of turnout. But if you did that in terms of voting and voter turnout, they do it too. Yeah. Right? So you tap into the already existing thing. That's what I think you guys can giving Leroy Jones an idea, right?
I do think you need the youth as part of the organizers, because sometimes when the parents are just creating programs for the kids, they want nothing to do with it. But if it's I owned a Reggio inspired childcare center, which was very much about child folk centered and their ideas and bringing them to light. So I think it's important to have that partnership and give them.
Once you pull it, Kai Cenat is national, international. But once you pull on the right influencer, it'll bring the other ones back. So you just got to go to the right source, right? Yeah. But I also want to ask you this, if you're going to answer the question. This is the one question that I have. I didn't want to bring my own journalistic stuff into it because this is Kathleen's forum. But my own question is, a lot of this, since we're talking about education, we've been hearing a lot lately about schools and districts running out of money. We don't have enough money. We can't do this. We can't do that. To me, as a journalist who's covered towns and who's seen the school budget process and the municipal budget process, when I hear that school districts don't have money, what I hear personally, it sounds like the schools can't pass their budget. That when they're putting the budget together for the voters to put forward the budget to the voters, that voters pay for the education of the kids in that town, it's like a taxpayer revolt. They're going, no, we don't want to pay for this because our kids are not there. And I automatically associate that with seniors, because seniors, their kids are grown, even though they're the most politically active, the most stable. And if their towns are tight financially for everyone, it's tight for them as well because they want fixed incomes. So if they don't have more money to give to the schools, or they want to commit to the schools, then that would be a problem. But so I don't want to say I don't believe that there's a funding issue, but I believe there's like a taxpayer revolt going on under the, and nobody wants to nobody has recognized it yet, or they want to say it, because the school budget is part of the tax levy. I don't know if you mentioned, I think one of you guys mentioned that, but if you can't get enough.
The school budget, you can't raise it more than 2%. And so the cost of health insurance, pensions, the buildings are falling apart. Like our middle school, the ceiling fell down, so the kids didn't have school Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday because the ceiling fell and it wasn't safe because there was asbestos and other environmental issues. Mm-hmm. And so now they have to extend the school year by 3 more days into June. And they don't have the money to constantly be fixing their old school buildings. And you have teacher salaries going up, as they should, but the cost of healthcare, everything's going up. And so the problem is the state funding is not increasing. You can't raise your taxes by more than 2%. There's some things outside of that cap that you can do, but it's very managed. And so they're all on a fiscal cliff. When COVID came, there was an infusion of money, so they were able to stay afloat for a little while, and it was paying for things, but then the money went away. And so those things that were being paid for by COVID money has disappeared, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these school districts on these fiscal cliffs. And so it's a challenge that everyone's having. And I do think while the school budget and the school tax dollars and all that is separate from the county, I think the county needs to do more to help our schools. I think that we should be looking at, what are the budget lines that are giving problems, and then advocate, change systems, figure out a way to make those budgets less. I think they have like a school board, I don't know the proper language, I'm sorry, but a county school board association where they're probably talking about challenges, but maybe you need to bring more people to that table and have these school districts talking more together. Maybe no one wants to talk about regionalizing schools, but Essex County has a lot of different municipalities and standalone school districts, and schools are closing right now. So maybe we need to start having that hard conversation about what communities can maybe combine and to kind of lessen the cost by being able to combine school districts. I mean, Maplewood and South Orange have a school district that was combined many, many, many years ago, but it works great. And then they have a board of school estimate, which is government officials from both towns plus school board members who sit on a board and have to approve any bonds, any capital improvements, anything that's going to be above. So that's how we work together. But I do think that the school, I mean, that's like, besides what is a county commissioner? What is a county commissioner is the number one question I get when I'm around. And the second one is like, how can you fix our schools? And so I do think we need to start talking about how to help our schools with their budget. And all the municipalities are having the same problems with their budget lines. The costs just keep going up. And it's not as easy to just say, oh, we're going to raise your taxes now by 15% a year, because New Jersey already has really high property taxes and we can't afford it. Like, everything's expensive right now. The same struggles that we're having as residents, everyone else is having. So we need to figure out a way to start easing the burden and making things more affordable for everybody.
Oh, no, listen, I tend to agree with you. Listen, this is Jersey. Everybody likes home rule, right? Nobody wants to give it up. And I don't want to give it up either, right? But the point that, interesting point that you made, I do think, and because like I said, that part of that home rule and part of that independence is you don't want people telling you how to spend your money, right? To come in. But covering Irvington, and I'm sure Kathleen remembers, I remember sometimes you need that when they got into the school, Irvington Public Schools got into a crisis. They got a fiscal manager. His name was Frank Sinatra. He couldn't sing though. And Frank Sinatra came in and he set them straight. He got everything in order. And I think I agree with what you're saying. Stuff is going up. And maybe the schools and the districts have not kept up with the times in terms of their fiscal management, their streamlining, and how things are working, because there's got to be some kind of waste of expenditure coming through there, or they're not maximizing what they have. Because that's what one of the things Frank Sinatra realized too, is that, listen, guys, there's money out there, like for free school lunches, this, but you have to get people to enroll in it. You got to sign them up. And so maybe there is money out there. I agree with you. There's money out there, but maybe each district doesn't know how to go about doing it, or getting it and having access to it, or or how to work the system in their favor, which would be great to have the county or someone come out and teach them, like Frank Sinatra did with these guys.
Exactly. And be that link to know, oh, this funding is available. This would be great for the Irvington School District, or this would be great for Orange, or this would be great for Montclair, where they have a real crisis as well. Just knowing, because that's half the battle, is knowing what's available. And you're right, these grant processes, everything's really hard. I like that you mentioned the food program, because that's actually a place where Maplewood and Irvington have really cooperated well. There was a time during COVID when Maplewood could have our standalone, because we have a lot of low-income families also. And there was a time we could have our own program, but then they changed the rules and we weren't able to anymore. So we partner with Irvington, and we have a satellite location on the border on Boyden Avenue. We have a standalone health department there now. And so we're able to provide free food to not just Maplewood and Irvington, but around the county for people that come there. And there are these great programs, and you need to have our health officer, Candace Davenport, she does Maplewood and South Orange now, and she's like amazing. She finds all the grant money. She knows all the county programs. She brings so many services, and we, not just East Orange, Irvington, we partner with everybody. And you need those types of people to be able to know where that money's out to fund these things, because it's all a funding issue. I mean, it's really hard to pay for things. And when you're a superintendent or you're the Board of Education, you have so many different problems. And you really should be focusing on the kids and the education and the operations, and all these outside things that are coming up is like hard. And, we've always talked about, we've had a lot of deferred maintenance. We know things are breaking, but we're putting the money to pay for the teachers. We're putting the money to pay for this. And so we're not necessarily putting in money to fix long-term problems. We're just band-aiding it. And then now the Band-Aids are all falling off all the time, so that our ceiling falls like at least once a year, and it's like the elementary school at Seth Boyd, and also right on the Irvington border, they haven't had like a gym all year. They can't use their gyms to get flooded, right? And all these kids getting physical education or being able to run around, or mental health of not being able to have a gym. So these are issues that I think are not just in one area. It's all across the county, I think.
Oh no, listen, I agree. That's why I said once again, I'm kind of cynical, right? And
right. I'm an optimist. We can fix it. If we work together, if we get to know each other, we can fix it together. Because my brain is fine, but yours is our brains together are better.
Yeah, listen, but I really think that's the problem. I mean, and like you said, they need to get creative, or even maybe just change their approach to how they do things. you come in and you change the system because times have changed, but there is money floating around everywhere,
Well,
and we just have to know how to get it.
I want to add, I've been a member of our children, our schools. I'll be posting a notice because there will be a discussion coming up. It's virtual next week. I am thinking that the date is June 3rd, I'm sure, at 3 p.m. I'll be putting that out because there'll be further discussion on funding and what happens now that Miss Linda McMahon has decided to go along with others and dismantle the Department of Ed. Of course, that affects many more thousands of youth in our state. But I'd also like to add that this is where the public and the community must be involved. There was a funding formula until Mr. Sweeney decided that he was going to do a funding formula, which wasn't a mathematical algorithm. And so the fairness of what should have happened with funding for schools, like Seth Boyd, and I remember when I was a kid, because my parents worked with the PTA, but those 100-year-old schools were supposed to have been just renovated or replaced under the school construction corporation, which of course took off without doing much. And now under the School Development Authority in New Jersey, will likely not be able to replace a lot of those things except under emergency, like the roof fell. So what I'm saying to you, this is a great discussion, but almost everything that was presented today demands that the community be involved. Reparations we didn't get to demands that the community be involved. And we're going to close by saying,
We can't. Kathleen, we can't close yet.
we're not
Marquise,
going to get there today, but please, everyone, keep in mind that it takes many minds to solve the problems that we have. And I thank you so much.
hold on, Kathleen, hold on. Marquise signed back in. Marquise, if you unmute yourself, you missed it. Kathleen gave a 5-minute long intro for you, but you must have had a technical difficulty. But you came back like I knew you would. Oh, but he's going again.
Oh, there you are.
No, he's there. All right, go ahead. And Marquise, if you have a chance, she gave you a great setup, young man. So handle your business.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how y'all doing? I'm sorry for that. I've been out campaigning all day, so my phone died on me, but I want to make sure I get back in. I want to thank you all for the opportunity. Yeah, I know that the NAACP means so much to me. I would never disrespect the NAACP and not be on here and share my my vision on my platform with you all. But those who don't know me, I'm Marquise Aquil Lewis, former president of the North Board of Education. I was elected at the age of 21 to serve the school board for 9 years. $1.3 billion budget for 9 years on the school board. We had tough decisions that we had to make, but we was able to make it. We was able to navigate and make sure that we put our children first and make sure that our classrooms received the resources that we needed. Even during challenging times, when we had a state superintendent who did not care about us, did not care about the voice of the community. With my leadership and with the other board members, we were able to still navigate and make things happen on behalf of the children in North Public Schools. And I heard you all talking about, what's going on in education right now, the state of education. And I believe that at this point, that it's important that we have a commissioner on our board that understands fully the what this attack mean on education. Understand that the county have a role to make sure that our public schools get the resources and also the aid and that they need in order to maintain and be able to educate our children effectively. With that being said, I believe the county have a lot of time in our educational schools. Our schools have give county can assist. Especially we have a county superintendent, also as a liaison between our local school boards and this down in Trenton. So I bring that wealth of knowledge and also knowing budget. I'm making sure that the budget is spent effectively and fairly across the county. To make sure that we have a think tank around the county where that will meet with the residents of Essex County and hear the needs that they have and create legislation and implement legislation to help aid our counties in partnership with them as a collective whole.
Thank you, Marquise, for that slight introduction and never be able to tell all of the work that you have done to make a difference in the North schools. Just want to ask you a couple of questions that we had covered before, and that is, how do you think that the county commission board can be more helpful in terms of services to be rendered to the citizens? Housing is a big issue. Healthcare is a big issue. Previously, the county has done a lot with uh, renovating and making our parks beautiful, have the Turtleback Zoo and so forth. But we also have the Donald Payne School and North Tech School under the county, and we have Caldwell, but they can't hold a lot of students. So with the AI coming through and the need for vocational skills, what can you say? Healthcare, education, uh, those kinds of things that make it better for people who are living in Essex County. Well, how do you think the commission board should be moving now?
Kathleen, can I just interrupt to say goodbye? Because I have to hop off. It's so
Oh,
important.
thank you so much, Deb. Thank you.
So one E
Jay.
ballot for me.
All right.
And go for it, Marquise. Thank you so much all for your time and for having me today.
Thanks. It was great meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Deb Engel. All right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. So I think that like I stated in my opening, I think first the residents you have to know what a county commissioner is, who their county commissioners are. As we go around Essex County, people don't even know who their county commissioners are. So as first we gotta build a relationship with them, right? Secondly, we have to give them the information on what services that the county have to offer. And I think that our services are inside the house, but we do a poor job educating our residents on the services that the county have to offer. So what I was saying about my think tank, a meeting with the residents, it was the first 90 days was to listen to the concerns that they have about what they need in their community, because what they need in Melbourne, what they need in Montclair, what they need in Maplewood ain't the same needs that they need in Newark and Irvington and East Orange. It's different needs. So after we assess that, we need to then bring our departments out to the community and tell them the criteria to become a business owner, the criteria of getting aid with fixing the roofing of your house, the criteria of making sure that when your roads are paved, right? If you need speed bumps, what you have to do to get speed bumps, especially if it's a county road, right? We have a lot of county roads. We also need to make sure that we have a open line of communication between county and the municipalities. Not only just that, a relationship between the counties, municipalities, and New Jersey Transit, because we have to make sure that when we do have bad weather, we have a relationship with them to make sure that if a bus stop is not cleaned, we have to have a contact person to call and say, listen, I just got a call from this city. The bus stop's not clean on this avenue, right? And that's a safety concern. So I think that we as a county have to do a better job, right? I'm saying we because I'm already speaking as if I am a commissioner, because the reality is the residents of Essex County don't know who their commissioner is. But guess what? After knocking on these doors, after engaging with them, they know who Marquise Quill Lewis is, right? They know that this is a fresh of new energy that's not going to just be a seat warmer, but actually deliver results. And on day one, ready to work on behalf of the 80,000 residents of Essex County. So that's what we need to do, is make sure we educate our residents on the services that the county have to offer so that they can know who they need to talk to and what the criteria is.
Listen, Marquise, I'm looking in the background. It says elect Team B. Uh, is that team separate from Deb and Sean who were on earlier, who were talking about Team E?
No. That's you can't get the whole thing. It's my poster. That's a Team Baraka.
Okay, Team Baraka. All
that's
right.
the that's the whole poster.
Oh, so all right, so that's oh,
But
so are you running on the same ticket?
I'm E2 on the ballot. Deb
All right,
is
so you're running.
E1. I'm E2.
So you're running with Sean and with Deb and those guys.
No. I'm running as independent.
Hmm.
Uh, on the Democratic line. But
He's
Deb
not on the
Engel
line,
is also running independent. Yeah.
but he's at the
There's no
top.
more lines. So yeah.
Oh no,
Yes.
well, no, well, listen, that was the thing. That was one of the questions we asked them. What is different about this year? And they mentioned the Andy Kim effect, and that there's no more lines. And so,
Yeah.
does that give you think you have a better chance now that there's no line? Like I said, once upon a time it was line A all the way.
Yeah, I think it gives us a better chance and an opportunity for voters to really look and evaluate who they're voting for. But also, I think that there's an undemocratic process that had been put in place with this whole convention thing. People coming to vote for who they're going to support as a party, but people uh, vote and then they hear the speakers, and then after people vote, then they're like, "Oh my God, I should have voted for this person." So I think that there's a whole thought process that need to be put in place on how we effectively make sure that this is a full democratic process. I think at this point, I would say that the democratic process is flawed, right? Just being honest about someone who participated in it, right? After I spoke, it was clear that I was the better candidate. But then people was already told who to vote for, and they already voted, and they heard my speech afterwards, and they were disappointed that they wasn't able to cast the vote for me. And a lot of people after that convention and after the results was delivered said, "I hope you stay in the race." And that's what made me help me make my decision to stay in the race. Because if I came in sixth place in a crowd of 13 candidates, 12 candidates, and came in sixth place, I think that with the numbers going down to only six people in the race, I have a better opportunity, better chance. And the truth be told, you got to win Newark in order to become the county
Yeah.
commissioner.
Yeah. I want to also say that it was the attorney, Julius Sass Rubin, who worked for many years out of the Education Law Center in Newark, who worked for many years to get the change in the setup for your ballot. And she argued for many years, and now she has won, along with the pressure from Andy Kim to change the ballot position so it's not line A all the way as it had been for decades, right? Like, so many people need to also understand the purpose and the value for having these forums so that you can bring the candidates forward. And I thank you so much for coming. You're not on the line, but I said it before and I'll say it again. I wasn't on the line the last time I ran. I ran for district leader and I won. So we want to make sure that everybody understands you don't have to vote just because somebody is on a ticket They don't have to be on a ticket. And also, we want everyone to understand if you go up there Tuesday and you look for independent party, you won't find it. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
declared Democrat or you have to be declared Republican. And the same for your mail-in ballot. You have to write Democrat on the envelope so that they will see your code. They will see that through the envelope, and they will also see your party. And that is very important. These are changes that upgrade what has happened in the past.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just wanted to add, Mama Witcher, is that, a lot of people, I got a flack because they say, oh, you say you're independent, you say you're grassroots, but you being supported by all these people, right? And I told them the difference between the people that support me and the people I'm running against is the people that support me. I put in work and I earned their support. I didn't have to buy their support. I earned it by the work that I've been doing over the years. And I'm not afraid to go against the machine because I worked for people who went against the machine all the time. Ras Baraka went against the machine and won. Senator Ron Rice went against the machine and he won on numerous occasions. And you know who was a part of that campaign? Me. So, in 2009, I ran on the school board against a powerful machine. Steve Adubato ran elections in Newark and I was able to beat him, right? So what makes you think that I'm going to be afraid of this machine who is less powerful than Steve Adubato was? So, I like you got to be kidding me. I'm from Newark for real. I'm not afraid to go against adversity. I'm not afraid to go against a challenge. I eat, sleep, and breathe a challenge. Throw a challenge my way. And I'm going to walk through that door with my head held high, knowing that even if I come short, I gave it my best fight.
Fact. But listen, watch yourself. Talking about this current for the Democratic machine is not as powerful as the other one. They ain't gonna like that. Watch yourself.
Hey,
Make
listen,
even
listen,
more
listen.
enemies.
Listen, I'm from Newark. I tell the truth. I'm sorry. That's probably why they don't want me.
And listen, another question that was asked of the candidates before, when you got cut off by the technical difficulty, was Kathleen mentioned that Newark, unlike some other places, allows youth voting. And the thing was, how do we get more youth involved? You mentioned that you got elected at age 21, which is still youth to most people, right? So what would you do to get more, voting eligible teens? I put it that way. Voting eligible, call them vets. Voting eligible teens actually to go out and vote and exercise their power because they got the numbers, right? Because they're so young and there's so many of them.
Yeah. Well, I think right now it's still on the school board level, right? So it haven't become outside of the school board level. I engage, like I would love for young people 16 and older to be able to vote in all elections because in some states, 16 years old, you're actually able to drive. You're actually able to get your license, right? You actually consider if you get arrested, adult in some parts of the country. So I think that when we talk about civic engagement, I think that's us exercising that and not just talking about civic engagement, but while our children are in school, 16 years old, we actually teaching them the importance of voting, right? Even at this time that we in, where people are trying to take away our voting rights, right? They saying that our vote ain't valuable, right? We need to get as many people as possible engaged in voting. While I was walking today, I walked by a young man who said, "Listen, I don't vote." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because when I came out of prison, they told me I didn't have the right to vote. Even though they changed the law, I was already comfortable without voting. So I just decided not to ever vote." And I said, "Well, do you know that now, because you didn't vote, they want to take our rights away from us?" And he said, just one vote. I said, "Yeah, but one vote count. Every vote count. So we have to not just teach our young people to vote, but we get less than 50% and from adults. So like we have to deal with home first. We got to deal with these adults that's not voting, right? Engage with them. Why they not voting? Get them to vote. And if we get our adults in line, then our children will follow.
Listen, why don't this is a larger discussion.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get into it too deep into it because you're saying some things that I feel, but and I also want to go back to what Kathleen was talking about this primary election about that independents can't vote or whatever. And in terms of what, because to me that relates to what you just said about that formerly incarcerated dude who said, "Why vote? Because my one vote don't count." But and you were 100% correct. It does count. But the way the system is set up, before we had the line, you had to go down the line and you can't, chop it up and vote for the person you want. Because you're right. Sometimes there's one person in that ticket you like. I don't want to vote for everybody, but the savvy, experienced voter will vote for that one person and go down, whereas the inexperienced person will just go down the entire line. But I do believe that there needs to be some kind of reform where people can vote because you're right. You can beat the machine. Bowser beat the machine by running in East Orange. You might mention Mayor Baraka. You mentioned yourself. You mentioned Ron Rice, who beat it a lot, right? And he kept getting in, right? Especially when he beat Bilal Beasley, right? Which I was surprised. So it can be done, and because it can be done, you believe that because you've seen it and you've lived it, and it really does. And people who haven't seen it and lived it probably don't understand it the way that you do, right? And so when they hear,
Like Chris, I remember sweeping the floor in Ron Rice headquarters, and I was privy to a lot of conversations that other people wasn't, because that was my job after school. I used to come and sweep up the headquarters for him, and he'd give me a few dollars, right?
yeah,
Hey, I need somebody to go on the field. Lewis, you going out in the field with Rufus, and putting up posters. And then, in the middle of election when the county abandoned him, he trusted a young boy like me and said, "Listen, I need you to go out with these guys. I want you to help operate Irvington." And we was able to do it, right? Because we have to continue to pour into the next generation. And that's what I love about the Ron Rices. That's what I love about the Amir Baraka seniors and Sharp James. They poured into us, right? They didn't look at us as an enemy because we have bright ideas to move our cities forward, or we wanted to be more involved. No, they took us under their wings and they put us involved. They put us in leadership. They gave us opportunity, just like Ras Baraka, our mayor, doing now, and giving us opportunity. And I love that when I look on the ballots, right, I see so many young people are seeking elected office, right? That makes my heart smile because I understand the struggle to make sure that we can vote, not even just vote, that we can have a seat at the table and that we can serve. Yeah, I understand the struggles and the blood, sweat, and tears that my ancestors went through. I know about Salma, right? I know about Amiri Baraka getting beat in 1967, and making sure that in 1970 we had the first black mayor of the city. And I know about this because I taught myself, right? I wanted to have self knowledge on what my culture was. I wanted to know who I was, right? And we don't do that anymore. So I think it's really important that we not just talk about it, but we put civic engagement in our schools, and we also empower the Amistad Act to make sure that our children understand their culture and where they come from, because that's only when that we change the mindset of our children.
see, I don't want to say you didn't trigger me, but I can see when Canilla said talk that talk. She was right because I've been thinking about that for a long time. But we won't get into that, right? Because that feeds to me that feeds back into what's going on with this Voting Rights Act stuff, which is you have this power, which is to vote, but you haven't been using it, and now you're only thinking about it because you're about to lose it or it's almost lost. So what were you doing with it when you had it? And we didn't. To me, we just didn't maximize it. We haven't been doing a lot of things that should be done. But like I said,
I've been
that's a
voting since I
whole
was
other,
18. I've
yeah,
been
that's a
voting since I
whole
was
other
18. I
discussion
make
though.
sure I vote every
Yeah,
election because I understand what my grandmother and my great grandmother and all of them went through to make sure that I had a chance to vote. So every election, I don't miss one.
oh yeah, but the average kid is not like that. But we won't get into that. But we'll stick with this. All right, and so we didn't get to ask this question, but we asked our questions of what our topics were with you with the same thing. But what is your top issue in this uh election. In this election that you're running for.
Transparency. Make sure that we communicate with our residents. We build a relationship or open line of communication that makes sure that they have accessibility to us, right? And also, youth is always going to be at the forefront of my heart. I'm unapologetic about it. I think that we can do a better job with our juvenile detention center, making sure that we help our children correct their wrongs, their mistakes, give them the resources, build partnerships between youth, our detention center and our school system, and also our healthcare community, because most of our kids are suffering from social, mental uh, abuse, and they need somebody that's going to make sure that they give a fair chance. That just because they make a mistake, they don't shut the door in their face and be labeled as a criminal for the rest of their life, but someone that's going to really make sure that we pour resources into them, that make sure that they learn from their mistakes, that we build our mentorship programs across the county, that we put our mentors up front, and everybody adopt a child, that needs a father in their life. My father was murdered when I was 9 years old, right? It was men in my community who grabbed me and who mentored me, who made sure that I wouldn't be a statistic, right? And I think that now we don't have enough of that. I think that people want to get paid to be mentors, and it's not from the heart, right? It's different when it's from your heart and it's a passionate that you want to help change a kid life around, from when you want to do it because you're getting a grant or you're getting money to do it, right? It's a difference between that. That's when it's really your lifestyle, when you do it because you believe in it, and it's not about the dollar amount that you're going to get in order to do it. So, my first 90 days is all about transparency. It's all about visiting the juvenile detention center and seeing the problems, the issues, and how we can fix it, and how we can make sure that our young people are engaged in help and in services, so that when they come home, right, they could go back to school, they could get their high school diploma, they could get their GED, they could get a job, they could get an opportunity to go through an interview, they could learn how to write a resume and how to properly interview for a job, or they can learn how to be an entrepreneur, how to start their own business. Because I think we bring so brainwashed that we have to work for people that we get lost in the sauce, when we could be our own entrepreneur, we could do our own businesses, we can be somebody's boss, right? Well, that can help us get our kids through college, and make sure that our family are self-sufficient, right? So I'm into that. My family ran Lewis Carpeting in Irvington, New Jersey, carpeting and flooring. That was a family business. I remember being 10 years old kicking in carpet with my uncles in the summertime, because they taught me about the discipline on how you got to provide for your family. And I think that we got away from that. And we want to do that. We want to bring transparency, entrepreneurship, and fight for our young people in Essex County.
A good answer. Once again, yeah, I'm trying to keep it on track because I don't want to, when the other candidates, ask you things that they didn't get the answer, to be fair to
Yeah,
everyone. Because I know
we're
Kathleen is
running
that.
out of time.
But well, listen, I scheduled till 8 because I knew what I wanted to do,
My
Kathleen. You trying
my
to keep it tight.
phone is like dying.
That's all right. But Kathleen got to go. So listen, Marquise, where are you on the ballot? Since it's not no longer on the ballot, we had Sean tell us where he is. We had tell her where she is. Where are you on the ballot? What line on your what's your
E2 on
line?
the ballot. I'm
E2?
E2, or some people say 2E. I'm E2 on the ballot. I'm right. Soon you go down and go on the
The
ballot. You go
third
to E.
column.
You go to the commission at large. I'm the second on the ballot. Yeah, I'm on the third
Third
column.
column.
I'm number two. Um, and like I said, I love the fact that the line is no longer, because it's no question about it. When it comes to don't nobody know nobody on that ballot more than they know me, because I've been doing the work since I was 16 years old.
I want to thank you so much, and carry on. We know we don't endorse a candidate NAACP or any 501c3s. That doesn't mean we're saying everybody get out there and vote. Everybody. Every house, every voter, every registered person go to the poll and vote. Tuesday, June 2nd is the primary election, and we're not stopping there. June the 9th, South Ward runoff. And in November, we have the general election. I want to say also that we have invited all the candidates tonight. Our GOP Republican candidates did not respond or reply to our invitation. We did have a response from Stephanie McGrath that she would be unable to come on. And we know that Abdur Yassin is running for council at large, for commissioner at large, and also Wayne Richardson is running for commissioner at large. I want to thank everyone. And on June 3rd, there will be a webinar at 3 p.m. to consider what our next steps in education.
All right. Good enough. Listen, thank you for coming on, Marquise. Thank you for battling through those technical issues and getting back on. I like that. That's a good start, right? That means you didn't give up. But I knew you was coming back, right? You didn't seem the kind of guy who wouldn't come back. All right. Thank the Witcher ladies for coming out with Kathleen. And I thought this was very good. And Kathleen, as you know, my thought is this: I invite everybody. I give everybody the opportunity to participate and be involved. But if they don't take it, that's on them, right? As long as the key thing is you give them a chance. If they didn't take that chance, I don't want to hear nothing about it later on. So that is us up. Irvington NAACP, county candidates and Democratic June 2nd Democratic primary candidates forum is coming to an end. I would say one last thing, give NAACP a plug. Join your local branch of the NAACP. If you don't have one in your town or municipality, start one. Because it's not just when we say colored people, we don't just mean black people, even though we are colored, right? It should be NAACP, melanated people. All right. But start a chapter. So thanks. I'll see you later. And give me a call anytime, Kathleen. All right. Is she still here? All right. See you guys later. Thank you. Bye-bye.